to be one of the only people really thinking about the border crisis. I've brought it up before. You go over to Daily Wire and they're just all about Israel and Palestine. You go over to many of these so-called independent outlets that you see on YouTube, and they're all focused on Israel and Palestine. And I get making a video here or there, but this daily thing where you're trying to get your whole viewership to just focus on that one issue, out of control to me. I want to focus on the border crisis because it's crazy. It's crazy. Tucker Carlson covers it here. It looks wild. Let's get right to the Tucker Carlson clip.
By the people who live in them. That is the most basic of all observations about the world. China is different from Barbados, and not just because of geography. Austria and Zimbabwe are both landlocked countries in the middle of large continents, but they are not the same. That's because their populations are different. If you have a country brimming with people who work hard, believe in Christianity and Western standards of fairness, and are willing, therefore, to settle their differences without violence, you will likely have a peaceful, prosperous nation. You will have Sweden 50 years ago, before millions of non-Swedes arrived. If, by contrast, you have a nation full of people, however friendly and cheerful they may be, who don't believe in any of that, who embrace tribalism rather than universal principles of justice, who think 40 hours a week is too much for a man to work, and who, for whatever reason, have low impulse control, then you will get a place like Congo, a country that has remained in a state of perpetual civil war since before most Americans were born. It's that simple. There's a reason the German sections of southern Brazil are affluent and orderly, while Amazonia is not. It's because of the people. This is obvious. No honest person denies it or has ever denied it. But in this moment of national madness that has gripped the United States, our leaders are pretending that none of it is true, although, of course, they know perfectly well that it is true. The result is a country, our country, that is changing faster than it ever has, but not through democratic means. Instead, by force, through waves of mass immigration that not a single American voted for. What's happening is a crime. It violates both federal law and the core precept of democracy, which is that citizens get to govern their own countries. This is election rigging on a mass scale, and it's fueled by anti-white racial hostility. That is not a guess. The people doing it say so out loud. They brag about it. They are criminals. They must be punished for what they have done. In the meantime, it's worth knowing exactly what they are doing. This was the scene at the so-called border at El Paso, Texas the other day. That's your country being invaded. It will never be the same. Republicans in Congress, the Republican governor of Texas, do nothing as this happens. Democrats cheer it on. They know that America will soon be a one-party state, and they'll be in charge. Immigration is the reason. Todd Bensman joins us now from the border. He's a longtime journalist and the author of the new book.
How is that okay? How wild is that? How wild is that? They're just rushing in like that. Look at that. Wow. Like as if they're running to a stadium. And then, see, it's very odd. Like they run in like that and all of them get let in. That's very interesting. I wonder, because I'm not 100% on my, immigration, knowledge, but is there any other nation that's like that? You definitely I was going to say Canada. Canada's border with the U.S. If a bunch of Americans just rushed the Canadian border, they'd be like, hold on. I know you guys speak English, but give me 1 second here. What are you guys doing? You couldn't do that anywhere else, man. You definitely couldn't do that in Poland. They actually have a system set up. They'll spray you with hoses if you try and do something like that. I don't think you can do that anywhere. Australia, you can't just show up. big boat of people, Australia, just everybody start rushing out. You can't do that anywhere else. Why is it being allowed to happen in America? Why are they allowed to do that? People, look how many people of all types. This is everybody. This is not just Mexican people. There's people from Venezuela here. There's Russian-speaking people here. There's people of all types here. And they're just coming in, stamped through, let right in. And it's just an amazing scene. Just an amazing scene. Let's get back to what Tucker was saying as he interviews this gentleman here. This guy has a lot of great information.
Todd Bensman joins us now from the border. He's a longtime journalist and the author of the new book, Overrun, How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in American History. Todd, thanks so much for joining us. Where are you?
I am in Piedras Negras, which is in Mexico, just across from Eagle Pass, Texas. This has been a red-hot spot for illegal immigration for the last couple weeks.
Who's coming across, do you think, and how many?
Right now, immigrants from 160 different countries are crossing this border. These are going to be people from other than Mexico and other than Central America, really from all over the world, Middle Easterners, people from every country of Africa, and the numbers are absolutely stupendous. This mass migration crisis of the last 36 months, 30 plus months, broke every record in the national history books already. But now we're in a surge that is breaking all of those records. We're looking at, 14,000 apprehensions a day, 10,000, 11, 12,000 a day, where like 1,000 a day once upon a time a few years ago was considered a national emergency. It's 14,000. We're looking at probably pushing 300,000 plus a month, and I think it's going to be closer to 400,000 a month if you consider the CBP One app where they're bringing them in over the ports of entry. You don't see those ones, and flying tens of thousands directly from foreign countries into 43 American airports directly. So you don't see all that. There's going to be a lot of runners and gotaways as well to add to that.
And I think we've got to operate on the assumption that none of these people are going back to their countries of origin, that all of them are being supported by American taxpayers and have an expectation of staying here.
Absolutely. First of all, we're pushing 5 million people that we know for sure are inside the country in a very short period of time. Just the logistics of trying to track down everybody and execute deportation orders, and it's just they're just going to, your odds if you're an individual immigrant who crossed in and stayed in are just phenomenal that you can just disappear into the ether of the country. Nobody's leaving.
So you're describing a total collapse of the rule of law.
Absolutely. If you come to the U.S. southern border, if you are able to get over this river behind me and into the hands of Biden's Border Patrol, you are guaranteed entry and stay in the United States. You're almost guaranteed. In addition to that, the administration has put together 3 or 4 different what they call lawful pathways that they are enabling people to cross, like kind of pre-legalized, pre-approved. They just kind of came up with this off the top of their heads, but like hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals are entering that way. 1 to 5 different ways that you can enter the country and successfully stay for a long term, because the whole calculus for the immigrants is, if I lay down $10,000 in smuggling fees, I want a return on investment. And that is entry and long-term stay so I can pay it back. And that is guaranteed right now. So Honduran villages are emptying out. Population transfers are happening right now from places like Cuba, Guatemala, African countries. People are coming, they're emptying out of their countries and coming through because there's a return on that smuggling investment to get here, because we are letting them in. We are deporting almost no one. We are detaining almost no one. I've interviewed thousands of these immigrants. On the other side at the bus station, you can find them with their papers 24 hours after they get caught crossing over here. They're stamped in and they're on a bus to New York City or wherever, all across the country.
We are not, like you said, we're letting, I mean, it's our criminal political class and the criminal NGOs who are pilot fished on that class who are making this possible. But most people are totally opposed to this. It's supposed to be our country. We're supposed to be its owners. We're paying for this. And I wonder, at an earlier age, you would of course see American men with their own rifles standing on the border stopping it. Does there come a point where people just say, this is a criminal government and we're going to stop the invasion of our country?
I mean, listen, ultimately this is an electoral issue. This is going to come down to the 2024 election. Who is in the inauguration seat in January 2025. This thing started in a 24-hour period. You can trace it right to the day it started, Inauguration Day 2021. It has a very distinct beginning, and it can be ended in 24 hours just as well, with the kind of policies that make that smuggling investment not worth it, not worth the risk. That's really what the calculus is. And also remember that, I've never met an immigrant who wasn't equipped with a cell phone, a modern cell phone connected to social media, and everybody down trail is very keyed in on their phones to everybody up trail. And when we as the U.S. government let them in, that immediately broadcasts to the entire world of aspiring immigrants, and that's when villages empty out, and that's what's happening right now. The only way to really stop this is with policies that take away the reward for laying your smuggling money down on the green felt.
You're in
such a wild scene. I just want to show you a little clip here, because not everybody is supporting this type of stuff. Not everybody is behind this. Let's bring this up here. There's a lot of people, especially these people in Chicago, that have a really big issue with this, as they should. But we're not hearing about these people all that much. Not like we should be.
Step in. We're talking about City Council today and a vote to spend $51 million on helping migrants here in Chicago. CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kosloff was there for all the action, and Dana, strong feelings all around.
Yeah, Erica, and for many different reasons. Among them, the fact that this $51 million approved today is only a short-term fix, and more money will be needed in just weeks.
We cannot continue to falsely pit communities against one another.
Deep emotional wounds coming to the surface.
As Black people who have been hurt continuously by the city and country it loves, it ain't our responsibility to take care of everybody else.
And anger.
We don't want to have to recall anybody. We don't want to have to protest anybody, but we are not going to be ignored, Brandon. Mayor Johnson.
Many in Chicago's Black community and the city council speaking out against spending $51 million to house migrants, asking when will the help for them finally become a reality.
And it cannot be put on the backs of the residents of Chicago without showing them that they're getting something out of this.
Mayor Brandon Johnson, presiding over his second full city council meeting, had to ask for calm more than once.
With the Sergeant of Arms, please restore some order.
Police also intervening at one point to allow the meeting to proceed. Ultimately, the measure passed with 34 votes. Many who voted to approve the money, like 49th Ward Alderwoman Maria Haddon, call this an immediate crisis that needs attention. But, she says, so do concerns of the city's Black residents.
Why are Black people in Chicago and some communities so angry? Why is all this kind of anti-immigrant sentiment coming up? And I want to explain to folks, it's because if we cared as much about Black people and had over the decades as we do about everyone else, we wouldn't be here.
But the money from a 2021...
That's amazing. Could you imagine someone saying that? She's the one who's approving, and she's down with financing all of these immigrants that are coming in, but she's also turning to her white constituents and saying, hey, if you guys cared more, and I'm not saying I care or anything, I don't care either, but if we cared more, maybe we wouldn't be here right now. But I'm right along with you guys. Let's dish out this millions of dollars towards this effort, and let's just forget about all the gangland shootings that are constantly happening around here. Forget about all that. These immigrants need places to stay. Wow.
One budget surplus will only last 1 month. Many alderpeople say it's time for a long-term plan and some state and federal help. With that, should taxpayers be concerned?
I think we should all be concerned anytime we're having to utilize this level of resources on a temporary situation, especially with not a real sight of federal support coming.
Hours after the meeting, Mayor Brandon Johnson offered no specifics.
We're going to have to dig in a little bit deeper in the city of Chicago, but that's going to be a collaborative approach.
Hey, man, you didn't make any sense. Whew, that's the worst. That means he really doesn't know what's going on. He really doesn't know. That little meeting that you saw, that was his second city council meeting. He's only done, because he's a new mayor, he's only done one before that. Incredible. $51 million. $100 billion over here, $51 million over there. And I just wanted to show you these clips because, Tucker's talking to a gentleman who's at the border. So you're seeing that situation, but now it's like, let's show you some stuff where it's already there affecting people. $51 billion. From the way Chicago looks and from the way everything's going on, they need $51 billion. They need $51 million for their police force. But instead it's going to just housing some people. And hey, listen, the people need it. In my opinion, they shouldn't even have got to the point where they're in Chicago. That's a far stretch going from Texas all the way to Chicago. They shouldn't have even have got there. They shouldn't have got past the Texas border. It's very, very interesting what's going on here. I got another one here real quick. This is what's going on in New York.
Crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities. Now hospitals are sounding the alarm, saying they're also overwhelmed, including some far from the border. Julia Ainsley has our report.
Tonight, the border crisis surging. Officials telling NBC News there were over 200,000 illegal crossings at the southern border last month, and a record 3 million migrants crossed the border in the last year. Now, a new warning 1,000 miles away in New York City, where officials tell us resources are overwhelmed. Across public hospitals in New York City over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
This has been the hardest work that I've ever done, but it's been the most impactful work that I've ever done.
And most of the visits to the taxpayer-funded legal clinic here are by migrants.
Our clinics are full, and there are waiting lists, and people are turning people away or referring them to other places.
Randy Redkin from New York's Legal Assistance Group says so many migrants are asking for legal help on asylum representation and health care access. Now, she says, American citizens who need legal assistance with issues like eviction and insurance have to wait up to 10 weeks.
If you ask me, do we need more resources for legal services, I would say absolutely yes.
Meanwhile, New York's governor now slamming the situation at the border.
It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum.
And New York Mayor Eric Adams saying providing services for migrants will cost city taxpayers $12 billion. But Biden administration officials have blamed Adams' response. It is not an operationally sound effort, one senior DHS official told.
Agreed. None of this is operationally sound effort. None of this. This is crazy. And you know what's funny? $12 billion. Listen, it shouldn't come from the taxpayers. There's a budget. There's a pre-authorized budget. And right now it's going to Israel and Ukraine and other places. Take it from there. It's $100 billion. Take the 15 that you need. I'm just saying 15 because, the other $3 billion, you can throw it at lawyers and stuff. They're seeking asylum and whatnot. Throw it around. You might as well. You're already throwing it around the world. Just take that $12 billion right there. There you go. Boom. Problem solved. Sorry, other nations. We only have $85 billion for you. Like, that doesn't sound so bad. I don't get it, man. It can't be that complicated. You know what I mean? Very, very, I keep saying interesting, but this situation is not interesting. And you see one thing like how these people right here.
Almost nightly, when the numbers run high, the influx of migrants shown on your TV screens. It was a Texas governor frustrated with the Democratic administration in Washington who was first to try to change the equation and send thousands to northern cities. In New York, one of the landing spots, the bills and the population are piling up.
You see how all these people are just like piled up, right? And I don't say that disrespectfully, but you see what I'm saying. There's a lot of people. Why isn't there at least a facility at the border where they go, oh, you have no place to go. Okay, well, all of you stay here. Oh, yeah, New York. I go to New York. No. You don't go to New York. You're going to stay here. You're staying right here. We're going to process everybody. Hope you guys have IDs. If you have IDs, then we can talk about doing the whole process. If you have nothing, you're going back. I know it sounds heartless. I sound like one of those white nationalist types. I know it's horrible, but it seems like that would be a bit more of a what did they call it? A sound effort, operationally sound effort, something. But instead, you send them over. They're already in New York. This is actually a picture of Atlanta. Surprisingly enough, you send them all over the place, and then they just start to pile up and start sleeping on the streets. Like, where's the thought process in this? Why is there? Who is creating the chaos? Who is sanctioning? Who is saying it's okay to have this chaos throughout the nation? Who's doing this? Who's okay with this? It's wild, so wild. Jeez, man. Let me know in the comments what you think should be going on. Tucker Carlson's coverage of this is wild. What you're seeing going on at the actual border, what you're seeing going on inside the actual place, it's all just crazy. It's all just crazy. I don't get it. Like how it's nuts. They got a little part here about terrorists. I'll give you the little part about terrorists. Then we got to hop out of here.
These are permanent changes. And again, this is the greatest crime ever perpetrated on the American people. Last question. Since we saw the tragedy in Israel just a few days ago, tied directly to borders, immigration, the nature of the population, et cetera, et cetera. Is anybody concerned, anybody in the Biden administration or among the criminal NGOs making this possible, about combatants coming into our country? These seem like mostly men of war age to me. Did anyone say anything about that?
Well, last month I was invited to testify before the House Judiciary Committee on terrorist travel over the southern border. And in my testimony, I pointed out that, we've had a record-breaking number of immigrants apprehended who are on the FBI's terrorism watch list already. Those are the ones we caught among 1.8 million that we never caught, estimated, and that's a low estimation. And I couldn't help but notice during my testimony that the Democratic side of the desk, the dais, they would withdraw and go into their cell phones and start looking at TikTok and Facebook, and they were not interested. Yeah. Almost kind of like the Israelis, maybe before this incredible, devastating attack by Hamas. There is a complacency, and I think by half of the country, terrorist organizations are imaginative. Just like we saw, and it's not a huge leap to consider that somebody might come in here through this completely collapsed southern border and go into a shopping mall or do something else at some point.
Yeah, well, if there was ever a reason to have a citizens militia, this is it, I would say. Todd Bensman.
Wow. Tucker Carlson, ladies and gentlemen, that is what's going on. And that, in my opinion, is where people should really be focused. I think there is a whole nation of people in the Middle East, Israel, that are really focused on their situation. They got a highly skilled IDF. They got a highly intelligent Mossad. Ukraine, there's already been billions thrown over there. They are holding their own for the most part. If the Biden administration is going to do things and place money, I get it. But American eyes need to be focused on America right now. And you need to stop feeling ashamed for that. There's no shame in you wanting to protect what you got. Everybody does it. Right now, as you're watching this, I'm sure you're not worried about what's happening at your neighbor's house. If your house is secure and you see something going on in your neighbor's house, you'll call the police. Maybe you don't like your neighbor. Maybe you're not going to do anything. I don't know. But you're going to worry about your own house first. You're going to make sure your doors are locked, your windows are locked first. No shame in that at all. Like the video if you haven't liked it already. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And other than that, I'm out.